sijui nianzie wapi. Labda kwa ufupi tu, jina langu ni Lennart Attenberger, umetaja vizuri, yani Attenberger. Kwa kawaida Wakenya wengi na Watanzania wakitamka Attenberger inakuwa Attenberger ama kitu kama hicho. Kwa hivyo nimefurahi sana. Sijawahi kutambulishwa kwa vitu vingi, kwa hivyo pia nimefurahi kusikia hiyo. Kwa sasa mimi ni mfanyakazi wa DW Kiswahili mjini Bonn. Nimekamilisha masomo yangu ya anthropolojia mwaka huu. Kwa hivyo sasa najaribu kuingilia kufanya kazi rasmi.
If you speak to a man in a language he understands, you win his head. But if you speak to a man in a language, in his own language, you win his heart.
Yes.
Because,
That's
Lennart,
deep.
when you called me the first time asking for the interview, we spoke, and then at the end you said something in Kikuyu, and I was like, oh my God!
And I only said thank you, Mono.
Yeah,
Just
exactly.
that.
Yeah, but that was enough for me.
Yeah.
You know, it touches differently when you
Yeah.
hear somebody speak your language.
Yeah.
And I also want to be the best Mzungu.
Okay.
It was a bit of that. And then there was one other woman who was there for 3 months. Didn't have a good time, lost her phone in the toilet, and like difficult, like because we didn't have European toilets there. We had normal at trains, and then apparently like her phone fell
With the
down,
phone to the top.
and it fell down. I always went with my phone. I never lost anything but a slipper. There was one time when a slipper fell down in the toilet, and I had to like jump on like one leg. At night, I fell out of bed, and like I pooped myself because there was, of course, it was not boiled water, but the kids were used to it, but I was not. I had a very
Yeah, your
sensitive
body was not used to
European
this bacteria
stomach.
and
Yes.
oh wow.
So the whole next day, I was just walking to the toilet, and then my room where I was in the top of the boma of the compound.
Yeah.
So I had to walk like
All
some
the
50
time.
meters
To the
and
toilet.
by the time I was there, of course, it was already over, and then I walked back, and then I came again, and like a whole day of that.
Oh my
The t-shirts,
God.
I went through like 3 or 4 t-shirts, and that was my 3rd day, my 10th day in Kenya, in a new country.
Oh my God.
And of course, it was my own fault, but no one was really there to help me.
Yeah, but you didn't know that.
And I didn't know.
Yeah.
And my host family was busy because they had to teach.
Yeah.
And then
They were
I went.
teachers.
Yeah, I went through like they're both teachers. My host mother was the head teacher of that school. So I went through 3
okay.
or 4 t-shirts, trousers, and I didn't know how to wash. So I just put them in a trash can and burned them.
Oh really?
Because I was embarrassed.
Oh my God.
I didn't know what to do. And in the evening, they took me to a pharmacy and it gave me like a cocktail of medicine, and then it was okay. Didn't go to the toilet for 4 days after that. It was, that was my welcome. That was my initiation, maybe.
You really put them in a trash can and burnt your own clothes because
Yes, I took like one shirt that I liked out of it later when I learned how to clean, but most of them I had burned.
So how long did you have to burn your clothes until you could wash them?
No,
Just the one?
No,
Not
I just
this-
let them to burn. I just until they turned to ashes. Those ones that were like
Full of shit.
Full of shit. Excuse my language. I just
totally
burned them.
okay.
I left them. Yeah. On my first day, I was very overwhelmed. We in the preparation camp in Germany, we talked a lot about culture shock, and I think like on my first day in my host family is when I had that culture shock. It was also, of course, because of the circumstances. I don't know whether I'm like stepping on anyone's feet if I share that story.
No, it's okay. Let's share it.
But I think they didn't know when I was arriving, so they were also scrambling around trying to prepare everything. And when I arrived, there was wrestling on the TV, very loud, the children jumping around, like a very normal thing that I got used to. But on my first day, it was very, oh my God, what is going on here? And then another child had a full diaper, and then the children were supposed to take of the younger sibling, and then there was poop on the carpet. So I was just like, oh my God. And so I went to my room and just laid on the bed and cried and napped for like 2 hours, and then I like had some compression on my chest. It was a big thing to just be suddenly away so far from home and not knowing what's going to happen the next year. Yeah.
Hello and welcome to Far From Home Diaspora Conversation podcast, your favorite podcast, isn't it? Yes. We are excited today. Thank you for tuning in. Like always, thank you for your comments, for your subscriptions, for your likes, and also for sharing our conversations. I'm your host, Carol Millenbrock,
And one boy.
And today we are really, really, really excited because we have our first male guest.
Yay!
Yeah, we've been having women, and last time we also had my daughter here, the youngest. So we are
Yeah.
doing our fast, the youngest. Now we have a male guest, and this is a first one that is really interesting. Our guest today is Lennart Attenberger. He is so many things, but one of the things that stands out that when we met, that shocked me, he speaks better Swahili than me.
It's true. It's true.
Yes, so Lennart, welcome to Far From Home Diaspora
Thank you.
Conversations.
Nice to be here.
Yeah,
Very
we
happy.
are glad to have you here. And I don't know, maybe we should just hear this
Yeah.
Swahili we are talking about.
Yeah.
Please introduce yourself in
Yeah.
Swahili.
Yeah.
Okay. Sijui nianzie wapi. Labda kwa ufupi tu, jina langu ni Lennart Attenberger, umetaja vizuri, yani Attenberger. Kwa kawaida Wakenya wengi na Watanzania wakitamka Attenberger inakuwa Attenberger ama kitu kama hicho. Kwa hivyo nimefurahi sana. Sijawahi kutambulishwa kwa vitu vingi, kwa hivyo pia nimefurahi kusikia hiyo. Kwa sasa mimi ni mfanyakazi wa DW Kiswahili mjini Bonn. Nimekamilisha masomo yangu ya anthropolojia mwaka huu. Kwa hivyo sasa najaribu kuingilia kufanya kazi rasmi. Naam.
Oh, wow.
Translate. Rasmi.
Rasmi.
Yes, of course. Yeah, my Swahili is more the Tanzanian because of the DW influence. It's very official.
DW is
Yeah.
Deutsche Welle, for
By
those
the
who
way.
don't know.
Oh, yeah, by the way.
That's so amazing because you spoke Swahili in one, without mixing it with English or
Yes,
German.
yeah.
And that is something we
never do that.
never do that.
Well, I can't remember the last time I spoke Swahili
Yeah.
without adding German words in it,
Yeah,
English words in it,
Kikuyu.
words in it.
Yeah. And that is so interesting. And the way we met is that Lennart called me and wanted to do my story about the restaurant. And we ended up talking about the podcast a lot too. And when he showed me the questions, I looked at that because initially the interview was supposed to be in Swahili.
Yeah, that's what it was supposed to be. Yeah.
And then I told him, what is this? And what is this? His Swahili is something I did not understand. And I'm a Kenyan. And then I told him, I think I better do this in English. And it was translated later. That's really amazing.
It is.
Yeah. But we have to start this podcast traditionally. I just wanted you to do that, to flex for the Kenyans
Flex
to
the
hear
muscles.
that.
Okay, enough of that.
We are impressed.
Really
are
are.
I
impressed.
appreciate it.
Yeah. So the question we ask every guest.
Yeah, we are going to start with a question, and this is the question that defines our podcast. Every guest that come here, we really always want to know how they define home. So this one goes also for you. What does home mean for you and to you?
Of course, it's always a difficult question to answer, I think. For me, it goes back to the Swahili topic. For me, I'm sort of caught between Kenya and Germany. I mean, in your podcast, you had a lot of guests who came here who had come from Kenya, and now they're dealing with Germany becoming the new home, and them adjusting to Kenya having been home, and now it's a sort of something else, or like a different connotation of home. And for me, it's the other way around. I came from Germany to Kenya, if only for 1 year, but that 1 year made Kenya now my main focal point, and now shifted sort of my understanding of home in Germany. Yeah. There's a lot of other things to dive into, but sort of, yeah.
But you somehow feel like Kenya is also a home for you, although you did not stay there for a long time. We'll talk about why you were there, but it wasn't now like a place you lived in for a long time, but you still associate Kenya
much.
with home.
Yeah, and I was very young. I was 19 when I went there, turning 20.
Yeah.
So I was very impressionable, and I soaked in a lot of things because I just had finished high school, and it was like a new beginning. It was like for the first time in my life, I woke up and had to make my own decisions. I didn't know how to do laundry by hand. Didn't know how to clean dishes. I barely loaded the dishwasher at home before. So I learned a lot of things, and also the way I was received by my host family in Kenya, by the overall society, with the language, now me putting an effort and being received very well. I think went very close to my heart, and that I think is why it affected
you
me
this
so much
feeling
and gave
of
me the
home.
home feeling. Yeah.
That's very interesting. And what I think is this you went to Kenya to do this voluntary social year,
Yes.
FSJ, and for many, it's done by many Germans or many Europeans.
Very many, yeah.
But what I hear most of the time is they go to Spain, they go to France, they go to, I have somebody who was working here and they just finished school and they went to Denmark. So they go away from home, but not very far away from home, And there's similarities in these cultures, even when it's a different country, it's still Europe, it's still, it's familiar. There's a lot of familiarity. But then you decided to go to Kenya. How did you come to this decision? Why was that interesting for you?
It was actually a decision that was made for me. After high school, I didn't really know what to do. I jobbed a bit. I worked in a clothes store selling shoes for 6 months or so. And then my mom urged me to apply for this thing because a friend of hers, the daughter, had gone to Uganda, I think, through this organization called ICYA, ICYE, International Cultural Youth Exchange, I think is the short form.
Yeah.
And my mom was like, yeah, that could be something for you. It's like a bridge year and you can figure out your things. And me personally, I was not aware of Kenya or any other country. The two countries that stood out for me that I wanted to go to were India, because I knew about Mahatma Gandhi. That film was very important for me. The Attenborough film, ironically, that's close to my name. And then Nelson Mandela, of course, apartheid, South Africa. Yeah, but those two countries were the most popular countries for volunteers to go to.
Okay.
So I had South Africa as my first choice. India, I was told there's no chance. There's too many people. I shouldn't even bother. And then the second choice was Ghana, because that was the other country I heard about. And then the third choice was Kenya, because that was like on the list. And I think there was not so much
So there was
interest in
no
that.
association to Kenya before that?
I didn't plan to go to Kenya.
Okay.
And then also on the sheet, they ask you, do you want to live in a urban environment, or do you want to live in a village, in a family, in a project? And I was like, I would like to be in an urban area. I think if I go to like a country somewhere else away from home, I want to be in a city.
Yeah.
But I ended up being in the smallest villages of all in Kenya, which was my third choice. But it ended up being the best thing that happened to me in my life.
But why? When you decide, is it that you take what is available? So when you arrived in Kenya, you wanted to be in a big city like Nairobi.
Initially, yeah.
Yeah, initially.
But they ascribed to me that project because there was an open space.
Okay.
And I think maybe because they do interviews with you, and then they deem some volunteers a bit more mature, and then there's projects that fit certain people, maybe more women or people who have experience in jobs. And me, I didn't have any experiences.
Yeah.
And the project was not so well managed. So I think it was just like an empty space that they put me into. But I mean, it worked out. It was really good.
Yeah. And how was because I imagine when I came to Germany the first time, I arrived and everything was new. Like, you just flash, everything new. But the thing that shocked me the most, that made me stay silent, was driving on the highway, Autobahn. Because I thought, I've just come out of an aeroplane, but we are driving like we are flying. It felt so fast. And I remember my boyfriend trying to talk to me, but I couldn't speak back because I was holding on the seat like this because that was so fast. So what was it for you? The first thing that really was, oh my God, this is so different.
Okay, when I arrived at the airport, of course, the smell is like the first thing that you realize. It's very different. That warmth in the air, it was very different because it was in early January, and Berlin,
that
where I
is
lived, was
hot.
very
That's
cold,
hot.
and it was
Yeah.
very hot. And then I had to wait almost 2 hours for the driver from the organization to pick me up. And I didn't know about those things that Kenyans are late or whatever.
Yeah.
But I didn't know when I would arrive. That's why there was no one to pick me up immediately.
Yeah.
And then on the drive from the airport to the accommodation that we were in for the first week, there was some zebras because we passed by Nairobi National Park, and there were zebras on the side. I was like, this is like in a movie. What the hell? I'm coming to Africa, and then there's zebras on the street. And then the driver is telling me there's lions.
This is true.
Animals on the street.
Yeah.
And then the driver told me that apparently there was a lion that broke out some months back, and I was like, what in the hell am I getting into? It turned out to be very normal, but yeah, that was my very first impression. Yeah.
That was normal. Because I've never seen a lion having broken out from anywhere in Kenya.
It sounded like a story, yeah.
It's wow, that's amazing.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, that's and then you went to Karen,
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
and that was actually Karen is
I was little
almost
Germany.
like here. There were different people from different countries, or was it only from Germany?
Okay, there's 2 classes of volunteers each year that go to Kenya.
Yeah.
There's one that goes in European summer in, I think, June, July. Which is usually the bigger group of like 10 to 15 people, most of them Germans. And then in winter, it's 2 to 3 people from Germany. And then we had another 2 girls who came from the US. So we were 5 people together in the winter exchange group.
Okay.
Yeah.
And why were you brought into this place in the beginning?
It was
in Karen?
It was a preparation camp. So we had a preparation camp in Germany that was 10 days.
Okay.
Where we were sensitized about issues of racism, our expectations, dealing with the life of being a white person in an African country with that colonial history and all that. What things not to do, what things to try to avoid. And then in Kenya, the first week was also just used for just preparing us for Kenya, teaching us things like don't hang your underwear outside. like just simple things like that.
Underwear outside. That's a good one.
Yeah.
Or if you see males holding hands, that's probably just that they're not in a relationship. It's just a more common thing here in Kenya to do.
Yeah.
That like if a man holds your hand as another man,
It doesn't mean that they're
you don't have to feel awkward.
you.
It's
gay.
just a friend thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
Or and we learned a lot of Kiswahili. We had, I think, 4 days of just 3 hours of Kiswahili.
Yeah.
And I'm interested to know who was teaching you. Was it fellow Germans or was it Kenyans?
It was a Kenyan. He was called Newton. Yeah, and he was like, of course, he was a Kenyan. He didn't have that official Kiswahili. There was a few things that were a bit vague, but it was it was proper Kiswahili that we were told.
Yeah, but here in Germany, you also did that preparation. So you said you were told some things, what to do, what not to do.
Yes.
What were those things?
I think we had different days. I don't remember exactly. It's 6 years ago now. But we had one workshop that dealt with gender roles and queer issues. And then we had one day when we had like an exhibition about colonialism and human zoos and all those things, which I was personally not aware of because in our school system, we never really talked about it. I think we had like 2-3 weeks where we talked about colonialism, but from a very special white perspective. And we sort of, we spun that perspective around in that workshop a bit. Then we were taught about how to deal with racism as a white person, because there's like that thing of whites, like racism against white people. And then we discussed why that can't really work, such things. Yeah, it was eye-opening because I was not exposed to such things before that.
Okay, yeah.
And are there some things that you were told these are absolute no-goes and then you went and did them anyway?
Not me personally, but definitely some other volunteers did that. We were encouraged not to raise money and do some what do you call it? Entwicklungshilfe, development work. Like you build a school, you build dormitories, because there's always it's a difficult situation coming as a white person and acting like the savior that is bringing money, and then that image of the white person always has money.
Yeah.
Because there's no person reflecting on where the money comes from. It's that representative who gathered the money and then invested it into a school, and then it's always seen as the white person coming with money. There's some people who did that. They fundraised 4,000 euros, built 2 dormitories. Yeah, that's something that wasn't encouraged. But some people still did it because they were bored in the project. Yeah.
And what does project mean? So you went after you finished in Karen, that camp
Yes.
of
first week.
being told what to do, learning a bit of Swahili, which was not much, I
But
suppose.
it was enough.
It was enough to make
to know to go board a matatu, the bus, or to go to a lady on the street and asking for a mango and exchanging. That it was enough for that.
I thought something else now, not a mango.
No.
What were you thinking? What do you think?
I'm not saying
No,
anything.
we were not taught that.
Okay, you were not taught that. He understands what I'm talking about.
But me, I'm still hanging. I'll come back to that.
To mango, yeah. So you went to Kisii. You landed in a small village in Kisii,
Yes, in Nyamira County,
Nyamira
in
County.
the southwest of Kenya.
So just please say hello to our Kisii
Big up.
people
Oh,
in Kisii.
Wait, we need to activate some memory. Mbiamore, Gaki. Naki ogende rete. Ntwarwara tigatoragere. Yeah, that means we've been sick, let's eat.
Okay.
Okay, that's very specific.
It's a song that was very popular then. So yeah, that's something I learned.
We've been sick, let's eat.
Yeah.
We've been sick.
We've already been sick for long enough. Let's just eat. Let's have something to eat.
Okay.
Ntwarwara.
Yeah.
Hey,
That sounds like
Ntwarwara.
Kikuyu. That sounds like Kikuyu.
That means another Bantu language. There's a lot of similarities. Yeah.
And you know what I find so interesting? I think it's Nelson Mandela who said, if you speak to a man in a language he understands, you win his head. But if you speak to a man in a language, in his own language, you win his heart.
Yes.
Because,
That's
Lennart, when you called me the first time asking for the interview, we spoke, and then at the end, you said something in Kikuyu, and I was like, oh my God!
And I only said, thank you, Mono.
Yeah,
Just said
exactly.
that.
Yeah, but that was enough for me.
Yeah.
You know, it touches differently when you hear somebody speak your language.
Yeah.
And I can imagine, because there's so many people who go to Kenya or any other country, but I'll talk about Kenya. Germans who go to Kenya, and they never learn the language, really. They expect other people to talk to them in the language that they understand. So we break our English and try to break it so that they can understand. I remember I was living at my cousin's place at the coast, and she was married to a German. If you ever had us talking, it was like comedy, because you would never understand which language they were speaking. Carol, my cousin, and her husband, Horst, they had their own language. They had invented their own language. And, you know, he was not trying to speak any Swahili or even any English. And she could speak a bit of German, so it was a mixture of German, Swahili, and everything. And I can imagine how were you received being somebody who was really trying to speak the language, even learning it very fast? Because when I read your blog, so it's like you are really interested in learning the language and learning it fast.
It became like my main objective to learn Kiswahili. I told myself I want to learn Kiswahili to a point where I don't have to use English words. I just want to know everything in Kiswahili, which is, of course, a crazy idea, because you have to learn a lot for years until you can. There's so many difficult words that you can only use in English and like move into Swahili. But what was funny was that I was really eager to speak Swahili every day on the bus to my host family, but then most people would reply to me in English.
Yes,
So
there's
I
a lot
had
of that.
whole conversations where I was just telling them, yeah, mimi nasafiri kwenda Nakuru, mimi ni mfanyikazi wa hiari, voluntary, which no one knew that word.
Yeah, nobody would know.
People would be like,
what are you talking about?
Nafanya kazi kujitolea. Okay,
Okay, yeah, that one we understand.
Then they're like, oh yeah, you're a very fast learner. And then the conversation will go English, Swahili, most of it.
You know, it's funny because this constantly happens to us. We speak German, and people constantly try to speak to us in English.
Yeah,
And sometimes it's really infuriating, depending on where you are, How did you react to that? Was it infuriating for you, or were you like,
Just
"Oh,
insisting on
just let me
speaking.
speak Kiswahili"?
Yeah, me and another friend of mine, Ben, if he watches this ever, hi Ben.
Hi, Ben.
We also learned we're not competing, but we were motivating each other to really learn Kiswahili. He lived in Kakamega, close to the rainforest in Kakamega there.
Ah, okay.
And we were really sort of forcing the issue to be the non-stereotypical white person in Kenya. We're not trying to be the khaki pants wearing
with
safari
safari
tourists.
hood
Yes.
and the
They do
camera
wear a lot of
hanging on
khaki,
your.
don't they?
Huh?
That's the only
Yeah,
image
and
I have
safari
of white
boots.
people in safari boots.
Yeah.
It's a very popular color
Yeah.
for sure.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
true.
But yeah, we were really fighting that thing of if you speak Swahili to you, you also have to reply. Like we were really forcing the issue. And sometimes I think we could have just spoken English because what's the point of forcing the issue? Like you'd rather understand each other than showing that you can
force.
speak the language.
Yeah,
At some point, it doesn't matter anymore. And then a very big thing of that was the word mzungu.
Yeah.
It was a very sensitive thing for us.
And why?
Because we were in this headspace of thinking mzungu is like it's a bit discriminatory. Like it shows you're different. It's I mean of course it is a signifier of difference, but it's not a negative one. It's just like you might as well use that word and then we can get into the conversation. But we were immediately that word was used, we were fighting. Like no, you can't use that. You can't. It doesn't. It's not
Now
nice.
I'm speaking Swahili
it
so
was
that you can know
yeah,
I'm one of you.
exactly. And it took us a few months, like I think like almost to the end of the year when we realized it's just a word and they might as well use it. If they use a word and then there's some other biases they have against us, then we don't need to talk to them. There's a lot of people that are very open-minded, still use that word, but they don't mean anything with it.
Yeah. Were you maybe during this preparation time told something about the word mzungu and how it is used, maybe that it created this feeling of it's not a word I want to be associated with, it's not a word I want to hear during that preparation? Because some things you might think that maybe you're doing it consciously, but it's something that happens, a word, something that was said by somebody that maybe makes you feel this is not right, because mzungu is a white person, yeah, without any negative associated with it. But I also know that there are some words that we talked about being called black, and Wamboi was comfortable with it, and I wasn't comfortable with it in the beginning because I was feeling like it is a word that is used in an very inferior way, you know, making me feel, because black is associated with bad things mostly. So why was mzungu for you?
I think it came from our like own political understanding of here in Germany, we're really trying to like not use any of these defamatory words. Like even okay, now black is it can be debatable. Of course, it's neutral, but it still has some connotation depending on when and how you use it. But we're really aware of trying to be as non-discriminatory with our language as possible in German.
Okay.
As a white person, trying to comfort people that maybe have not been having the nicest experiences, black people or other people of color. So we transported that idea to Kenya, not really considering the cultural background of the word Mzungu and the position of white people in Kenya. So I think we didn't really have that in mind, and I think that's why we were really eager to prove a point. But if I think it's just the experience we had to go through. And if we had known better in the beginning, we would have probably fought something else. We would have
there's
found
always
something to complain about.
Yeah, it's true. It's true. So there was still this sense in you of wanting to belong and feeling that this word is standing in the way of belonging to this state.
Yeah.
It's a very universal thing, I think, to want to belong. Where you are, and any outside issues that come in that make you feel, okay, now I don't belong, then you want to fight it. But it's interesting to hear about it from the other point of view, because I always hear like people say, Kenyans are very welcoming, and it's and when we are here, we feel like we are more welcoming to you guys. Why are you not more welcoming? Like, so it's interesting to hear this experience now from your point of view.
Yeah. I'm sure if we continue talking, there's going to be other examples that are popping up. I just don't have right now one in my head. But yeah, that realization only came later. That of course there's so many people here that are living a similar life, like as an outsider and trying to be accepted. But of course, our position as white people in Kenya was different no matter what we tried.
Yeah.
Because of the historic background of white people, what they did in a lot of African countries, and historical continuances of white people, economic interest, and all that. Yeah, it was a what do you say, a fight against windmills.
Yeah, exactly. And then again, you have to consider that Mzungu has never been used to demean a group of people. It has never had this meaning.
Yeah.
N-words and black, on the other hand, have had this meaning.
Exactly.
So I think this is why maybe it's Mzungu can be much, much, much more neutral, because it actually just means white person.
True.
And then it depends on what comes after that. Mzungu did what? And then, if it's a good Mzungu or a bad Mzungu.
Mzungu Kicha.
Mzungu Kicha.
You know that guy?
Mzungu, crazy Mzungu.
Yeah,
No.
crazy Mzungu. There's a guy in Tanzania. Do you know him?
I don't think so.
He's a musician, I think. He speaks perfect Swahili. He calls himself Mzungu Kicha. And there's a time we went to his concert we won it in the radio. My husband called and we won. He calls himself Mzungu Kicha. And he was singing really nice Swahili songs. He's from Tanzania. So, Lennart, you arrive in the family, the Kisi family. How big was the family? How different was it from the family you know, the constellation of the family you know here in Germany?
I think I never really figured out how many people are actually there. No, for real.
That's nice.
In that year, I said I want to write a blog entry about the extended family of my host's family.
Yeah.
Because my host mother had, I think, 12 siblings. There used to be 15, I think. I hope I don't say anything wrong. And then I think 3 have died. So you can imagine just the siblings, knowing all of them, and then the husbands and the wives and the children, all the cousins. I think it was an unbearable for me, also coming from a very small family. I think we're like 5 or 6. I have one sister, 2 grandmothers left, and then my father and my mother.
Yeah.
And that's
a
basically
very
that's like the,
Nuclear and extended, that's it.
yes.
yeah.
Maybe the boyfriend to my mother, and my step mother, the new wife to my father.
Yeah.
So it was really difficult to
that's all.
overlook all that, to remember all the names. You saw maybe some people only once or twice. Remember the faces, even if you had met in the city, I would have probably not recognized them. Yeah, and then also I was introduced to so many people constantly. They're like, meet Lennart, he's from Germany, he's our guest, he lives in our family, he's my son. And then of course so many people remembering all the names and faces, it was quite overwhelming also, because you're being shown, look, we have this guy now, he's one of us now.
Yeah.
Meet him, he's a nice person.
Yeah.
And sometimes it was too big of a task to do.
But how about the nuclear family? Were there children in your age?
Yes. So my host mother also had 6 children. The youngest was my age, 1 year older, and the oldest was, I think, in her mid 30s. There were several years apart, 16, 17 years apart. But when I arrived the first week, there were 3 of the grandchildren. My host dad, who also has, of course, his extended family, which I didn't meet much. And then there was her, yeah. And then it kept shifting. There were people coming in and out. My host brother came after some time, which was really nice to have like someone my age to share all the experiences with, and his view on me and everything. But yeah, I couldn't tell you like how many people exactly there.
Yeah.
And of course, it was easier for you to be remembered than you to remember. I take it you were the only white person?
Yes. Okay, I was the 3rd volunteer in that family.
in the
Okay.
family.
Yeah, so there was one woman who had been there 2 years prior to me for a whole year, was talked about all the time. Because when they see me, is this your sister? Do you know her? She was speaking Kisi, she was speaking Kiswahili perfectly. And then she came to visit later, and of course she was barely speaking some. She was speaking well, but of course not as everyone has praised her.
Yeah.
And then there
It was a bit exaggerated.
It was exaggerated, but it played a bit also with my own expectations, because like, man, I also want to be the best Mzungu.
Okay.
It was a bit of that. And then there was one other woman who was there for 3 months. Didn't have a good time. Lost her phone in the toilet and like difficult like because we didn't have European toilets there. We had normal at trains, and then apparently like her phone fell
With the
down
phone to the toilet.
and it fell down. I always went with my phone. I never lost anything but a slipper. There was one time when a slipper fell down in the toilet, and I had to like jump on like one leg. But other than that, yeah, those were the two white people before me. There's a lot of those experiences. Like in the first week when I came,
That's really fun.
okay, so we had a walk to school that was like 20 minutes. I was always with the kids.
Yeah.
Because I was supposed to teach in the school, and I did. And then I also was like the babysitter to take care of the children. Of course, it was nice for my host mother to have someone to look after them. So on the way back from school, there was a well where they would always go with like bottles, and then they fill up the bottles, and the kids would drink them. And then on the second or third, on the second day, they also gave me like, you want to drink some water? I was like, oh yeah, sure, I'm thirsty. So I had the whole bottle. And at night, I fell out of bed, and like I pooped myself. Because of course, it was not boiled water, but the kids were used to it, but I was not. I had a very sensitive
your body was not used to these
European
bacteria
stomach.
and
Yes.
oh wow.
So the whole next day, I was just walking to the toilet, and then my room where I was in the top of the boma of the compound.
Yeah.
So I had to walk like
All
some
the
50
time.
meters
to the
and
toilet.
by the time I was there, of course, it was already over, and then I walked back, and then I came again, like a whole day of that.
Oh my
The t-shirts,
God.
I went through like 3 or 4 t-shirts, and that was my 3rd day, my 10th day in Kenya, in a new country.
Oh my God.
And of course, it was my own fault, but no one was really there to help me.
Yeah, but you didn't know that.
And I didn't know.
Yeah.
And my host family was busy because they had to teach.
Yeah.
And then
They were
I went.
teachers.
Yeah, I went through they're both teachers. My host mother was the head teacher of that school. So I went through 3 or 4 t-shirts, trousers, and I didn't know how to wash. So I just put them in a trash can and burned them.
Oh really?
Because I was embarrassed.
Oh my God.
I didn't know what to do. And in the evening, they took me to a pharmacy and they gave me like a cocktail of medicine, and then it was okay. Didn't go to the toilet for 4 days after that. It was, yeah. That was my welcome. That was my initiation, maybe.
You really put them in a trash can and burnt your own clothes because
Yes, I took like one shirt that I liked out of it later when I learned how to clean, but yeah, most of them I had burned.
So how long did you have to burn your clothes until you could wash them?
No,
Just the one?
no,
Not
I just
this-
let them to burn. I just until they turned to ashes. Those ones that were like
Full of shit.
Full of shit. Excuse my language. I
That's
just
totally
burned
okay.
them. I left them. Yeah.
Oh my God. But do you know, to this day, I still have diarrhea when I go to Kenya. Like, this is like my welcome to Kenya is always
really
day 4. Somehow, and then when I
Is
come
your
back to
stomach sensitive?
Germany,
You have the same.
I have the same thing somehow. But if you don't know this, oh my God, I'm so
Yeah.
sorry.
No. It was okay. It's a nice story. I mean, at least I survived.
You did.
Oh my God. Yeah,
I live to tell the
that's
story.
interesting. Yeah.
But I'm sorry, but I'm interested to know who was paying you? Were you being paid?
There's a fund that I don't know exactly how to say it in English. There's a scholarship. There's several
Okay.
scholarships. There were 2. One was, I think, 1,000 euros more than mine, from Weltwärts, which is like I think the
I know Weltwärts.
Ministry of
Foreign affairs.
Foreign Affairs, I think, yeah, and development work or something. And it was like 2,500 euros that were funded on the full scholarship,
okay.
and for me it was, I think, 1,500 euros.
So for this whole time.
for the whole year, yeah.
Okay.
Oh.
Okay.
That are given to you. Like, it's like pocket money that you get every month. I think every 2 months I got 160 euros as pocket money, so 80 euros a month. And then there's administrative costs for the office in Nairobi, costs for the office in Germany. And then I had to fundraise. Like, I had to go to people and ask them, look, I'm going to Kenya. Do you want to fund 200 euros for me? Like, support the thing. And then
okay.
as a return, I'm writing the blog. That's why I wrote the blog, to have a reason to like go give back to my donors.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Okay. I've never heard of that. That is
So you were
interesting.
not like, you didn't have to work, like Wamboi told her story here, because you were not getting money from.
No, I was getting money from my family.
Yeah.
Yeah. Opea money, you mean?
No, I mean FSJ.
FSJ, who was paying me? Well, I was being paid.
You were working to get paid.
Yeah.
But you were not working to get paid.
I was doing, my work was for free, basically.
Yeah, that's
so
what
you
I
had
mean.
to get money from elsewhere to fund what you are doing.
The whole thing is funded by our government.
So it was not
Yeah.
the people you are working in a school. It was not a school paying you.
No.
Yeah.
I think they were given. I think they were giving very little money. Also, I think the family was compensated with 2,000 shillings, 20 euros at the time.
For the whole
For
year.
a month
A month
in
yeah.
food, but
for your
that is
upkeep.
very little, because I think the
That's
cost that they
little
had was bigger than that. I mean,
Maybe you're thinking about 2,000 euros.
2,000 Kenya shillings.
that's 20
shillings,
euros, 20 euros a
Yeah,
month
20
for them.
euros.
That's what I was told. I'm not exactly sure whether that could be a bit more, could be a bit less, but it was
Yeah.
not much.
Yeah.
I think for a lot of families who volunteer to have volunteers, ironically, for them, like, it's, of course, it's other benefits that come with it, like the connection to like a European, the exposure culturally also, of course.
Yeah.
Different things.
But I also read in your blog that you were at some point very sad, and you had you were missing home,
Homesick.
and you were crying.
Yes, I was. On my first day, I was very overwhelmed. We in the preparation camp in Germany, we talked a lot about culture shock, and I think like on my first day in my host family is when I had that culture shock. It was also, of course, because of the circumstances. I don't know whether I'm like stepping on anyone's feet if I share that story.
No, it's okay. Just share it.
But I think they didn't know when I was arriving, so they were also scrambling around trying to prepare everything. And when I arrived, there was wrestling on the TV, very loud, the children jumping around, like a very normal thing that I got used to. But on my first day, it was very, oh my God, what is going on here? And then another child had a full diaper, and then the children were supposed to take of the younger sibling, and then there was poop on the carpet. I was just like, what is going on? And so I went to my room and just laid on the bed and cried and napped for like 2 hours, and then it like had some compression on my chest. It was a big thing to just be suddenly away so far from home and not knowing what's going to happen the next year. Yeah, it was intense.
With 19.
Yes, and then a big thing that also contributed was my medication, my malaria medication. Yes, because I didn't have the one that you take every day. They were encouraging us, like the ICOE was not telling us anything, but of course when you go to a pharmacy, they're like, yeah, you must take malaria prophylax. And there's those ones you take every day, and then there's those ones you take once a week. But those ones had been used by British soldiers, and they had messed with their brains.
I don't know why they advise people to take these things.
It's called Lariam.
It's just
They say like they said you might have nightmares, you might have things, but I was like, yeah, but I'll be okay. I don't have any psychological thing in my family or anything. But I had crazy dreams. That thing made me trip out.
Oh God.
There was one day where I had a dream where I was within a dream, and then the moon crashed into the earth. And then it was like, I have to go, and I was in Europe, and it's like, I have to go to Kenya because the moon is in Europe. And then I woke up, but I was still dreaming, and I was like, guys, did you hear about this story?
Here's a quick one to tell you about our sponsors, TDX Media. I've been working with TDX Media for about 5 years now, and this has saved my life, literally saved my life. TDX Media has a way of helping you to optimize your office work. So I am a very chaotic person. My office was looking like you can imagine it. And then TDX Media came, and they really helped me to optimize the processes, especially the processes of how I work, what should happen when, they came and advised me. They came and sorted out most of my files and all that, because I am not that. And then my website, it's beautiful because it is being maintained, it is being serviced by TDX Media. And then the CEO of the company, Christian Tiedemann, who does all that, comes to you, advises you, he talks to you, he listens to your needs, and then crafts everything according to how you need it, but adding his professionalism in everything that he does, such that at the end of it all, and he will not use anything he doesn't think is okay for the person visiting your website. So if your photos are not good enough, then he'll not put them in. And that is the level of professionalism that I need when I'm working with someone, so that they just don't do everything I tell them to do. They tell me, okay, it's your website, but it has my name on it. So he will not do anything that is not professional enough. And the other thing is event management. Guys, these guys are so organized. TDX Media is so organized. They have taken control and over. They organize our African festival, which happens every year. So I have nothing to do with it. The first year I organized it myself. I almost went crazy. And nowadays I just get calls, or when we're talking, it's a yes, no, and I have nothing to do with it. It's the best thing that ever happened to me. I love working with these people. I love the way they, present themselves in a way that is, I will talk about professionalism the whole time, because that is what they are. They are professionals. And you see that in everything they do. When they're doing consultations with you, they are very specific in everything that they're doing. You can only be satisfied when you're working with TDX Media. And I'm so glad that have trusted us now to sponsor our podcast. And I've been working with them all this time, satisfied with their work. I'll continue working with them. So please visit their website, www.tidix.de. That's www.tideix.de. Visit them, because you'll be doing yourself a favor. Thank you so much.
I was like, yeah, did you not hear? And then I woke up and I was in the back room of my host family. I was like, oh, where the hell am I? It was spooky. So after 2 months, I had like a panic attack again because of taking the medicine. And then I was just like, let me just not take this anymore.
What were you told? Were you supposed to take them the whole time you were living in
I had
Kenya?
enough. I think I had enough for a year.
Why?
Because apparently it's better than getting malaria, but I had malaria like 2 or 3 times and it wasn't a big deal. So.
That's the thing. That's the thing.
A big deal.
You just go to the chemist. You don't even have to go to the doctor. That's what I told my husband when we were going the first time, and everybody was telling him there are some injections you have to do. That's okay. But then this thing of malaria, and he was telling me, they've told me here in Germany I take 6 weeks prior to my, I think something like that.
You have to start earlier.
I told him that's bullshit. We go to Kenya, you get malaria, we go to the chemist, we buy malaria queen or chloroquine or whatever. You take that.
Some form of a queen.
Yes, sometimes it's something queen. If it has a queen at the end, it's something good
It's the
for
right thing.
malaria. Yeah, you take that and you're done. So and they're so expensive. And I don't know why
Yeah.
they advise people to. It's bullshit.
But I came to believe that white people cannot deal with malaria. I was also told, like, white people get malaria, they die.
They die
apparently
because
it's
they
not
don't
true.
have the right treatment. Because I think even hospitals here don't know how to deal with malaria, because
True,
it's not
they freak
something
out.
common. But when you're in Kenya, you go to a chemist, they look at you and say, "Oh, malaria, chloroquine."
Okay,
Here.
pole.
Yeah. It's just like grippe.
for the 30 Kenya shillings and you're done. It's not that serious. And this panic, that's why in our episode about when we talked about your boyfriends when you go to Kenya, I forgot to say that. Please advise them not to take this prophylaxis or whatever. It's nonsense.
Yeah. The best prophylaxis is wearing long clothes in the evening.
Yeah. Or have some spray if you have to.
Spray some stuff on your ankles.
So you don't get bit by mosquitoes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But not take this. Yeah. So that was affecting you.
Very much. I think that made the first 2-3 months very difficult. If it
Is
wasn't
that
for
even
that,
legal? Because that's like a psychosis, right?
no, they warn you and then they say it's your own risk.
And then, oh my
But there's
God.
people who apparently like have committed suicide taking them. Yeah,
Oh my
it's a
God.
serious thing and I understand why, because it really messes with your mind.
Okay.
And you're constantly in a state of fear, and you have nightmares, and sometimes you hallucinate a bit. And you can imagine being in a very different
in a very
country
different
for you,
country, far from
dealing with
far
things,
from
and then
home.
that medicine is affecting you. And I didn't know it was that. I thought it was just because it was a difficult situation. I thought it was just that. I didn't know it was my malaria prophylaxis.
You can better get malaria instead of.
Yeah, but if you're going to die, it does. So to our listeners, are you telling our listeners to please not take? How did you call this medication again?
It was Lariam. I'm not telling anyone to do anything, but I can say it was very bad for me, and I think it for a lot of people. So do your research how it's going to maybe work with your receptors in your brain if it can, or if you must, then take the daily ones, the daily prophylax. They're expensive, but it's better. Yeah.
But I'm not a doctor, and I don't want to.
Yeah, we're not giving anyone like
No,
serious advice.
no,
Do your research.
But I would. Don't mess you. I don't know. I don't know if I would mess my time like that, mess it up with taking medicine that makes me feel. I just wait. If I get sick, I get sick, and I go to the chemist or to the hospital, and then. Yeah. But that aside, so
That aside,
you
so
are
don't come and tell us that the people from Far From Home said that.
No, we did not.
We did not say anything. We are just telling our experiences.
Yes, exactly.
Okay.
Yeah. And so you dropped the medication, and this phase was over. Did you still have what is the thing you missed most about home?
Yeah.
Okay, the easy answer is probably let's say bread.
I
That's an easy
say
one.
bread.
That's an easy one because
Yeah.
the toast, of course, it doesn't really work so well if you're accustomed to different bread, especially brötchen, the small buns. That's a different story.
Yeah.
But other than that, I think I was very much in this headspace of saying there's a lot of things that are better in Kenya. Why don't we do this in Germany? Why we're so stiff? Why do we have to be so serious about things? Because I was very impressionable, as I said earlier, and everything new to me was like a better thing. Only later, of course, you start relativizing things, and you see, okay, Kenya also has issues, of course, as every country does. But everything seemed better. And then when I came home, also it was a long phase of me adjusting. It was very difficult. It was more difficult to adjust now to Germany than to adjust to Kenya.
I totally believe that.
And I'm sure also you have had
Yeah.
that similar
Yeah.
experience going to Kenya.
Yeah, you go back home and you're like, okay, I no longer really know how to function in this country. I think you really need a long transition.
Yeah. You do.
But what was the moment? Because we came now from this space of, okay, everything is like really fucked up and you're feeling fucked up. And so, excuse my language.
Substitute that with
not working as well
Yes,
as you would have
yes.
expected it to
Substitute
work out.
that, yeah.
Substitute. All kids listening, I know we have young listeners. Yeah, you know what I mean. Which was the moment that of transition? Can you remember the moment when you woke up and you thought, actually, this is not that bad? Was there like this transition moment where you thought, okay, I'm asking this because when I came here, I also thought, I don't know how I'm going to survive this country. And then I met a friend of mine from Finland and she introduced me to so many things. And I thought, okay, maybe it's not that bad. Yeah.
Yeah, in the preparation camp in Germany, they told us like the first 3 months are the most difficult, and expect some difficulties, and then after that it's going to get easier. And I think it was with me with the medication. After that, it became easier. But I think when I realized I have arrived was again food, because we had a lot of ugali. Yeah,
Ugali.
and of course in the beginning it was exciting, something new. And then after some time you get really bored of it. You're like, God, not ugali again. Can we make some
What?
chapati? Can we have something? Can we do something else?
but not ugali.
Yes, but then there was a point again when I was actually looking forward to ugali, even if it was every day. I was like, yes, I'm looking forward to having ugali. And I think that's when I realized, okay, I think I've arrived here. Yeah. And maziwa mala, the thick milk. In the beginning, in my first day, I had a sip and I was like, it almost came back up. But after some time, I enjoyed it a lot.
That's the best thing, actually, maziwa mala. Oh, now I really miss maziwa mala.
Yeah, me too.
Where will I get some? Caro, do you know how to make maziwa mala?
You can, but it's not the same
not
because
the
you have to
same.
get the milk direct from the cows. You cannot do it with the milk you buy in the supermarket. It can't work. So you know what I've learned nowadays is not to destroy that that Inarong, what is it called? That
Memory.
Memory. That memory you have of the good things you had. Because I have also noticed, when we go somewhere on holiday and you drank a good wine there and you're thinking, oh, I'll take it home with me. And then you come with it and you think, oh, that's some scheiß.
Tastes different, yeah.
Tastes different.
You are
So
drinking the moment.
just let that be the good memory you had from home. When you are home, drink that. And I don't even, in the beginning, I used to carry a lot of things to Germany with me and they'll only last you 2 weeks, 3 weeks, maybe. The only thing I like carrying is white maize. Otherwise, I don't carry anything else. And that's a process. But food really contributes a lot to that feeling of home. And when you're at home with the food, then
For me, it's chai. I always carry majani.
Yeah.
The tea leaves.
that.
Yes, because in where I lived it was the next biggest city was
that's
Nyansiongo, Kijauri, and they had a mill, like a factory,
Oh,
and
fresh
they
tea.
sold like 600, 500 grams for 3-4 euros. So I would go back with like a few kgs of tea. Yeah, and it was just really good tea. Next time I'll bring you some.
Oh, please
Yes,
do.
please do.
Please
Really
do.
good tea.
Yeah.
Really, really.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
Nice. So you were 19, you said, and that is the age where young men start. He's pulling the microphone.
No. I'm it's a joke.
Yeah,
Sorry. No,
there's
continue.
this interest, the natural way of you're interested in girls and relationships. Were you warned against that, or was it a natural? Because you can be warned about everything, but feelings are feelings, and we are all human beings. Did you have relationships in Kenya?
We were in the first week in that preparation in Karen. We were warned to not commit. Like the head of the organization was on that topic. She was quite conservative and strict because she had seen people that went into relationships and didn't really work, or like there were conflicts. Maybe someone went home pregnant. There were women who went back pregnant with a Kenyan child, and then the relationship broke apart. And she had heard a lot of bad stories. So she was also advising us, don't commit, don't have sex, because there's like if you must, and then it was all that, the bees and those stories. But of course things happen. But yeah, in the first 3 months, I was like, I'm never going to have. There's no chance, because I was in a very conservative Christian
Family.
environment,
Yeah.
and it's like there's no chance anything is going to happen. And then in mid-March, I visited Nairobi to meet with my contact person, because everyone was assigned a contact person.
Okay. Yeah.
Steve, hi Steve.
I say,
So it's a story. Yeah. So I even told Steve on that night, because he was like, "There's a friend of mine, and you're really going to like her." And I was like, "Yeah, right." I had already finished with that chapter. I was like, "Yeah, right. Yeah, you say whatever." Yeah. Yeah. Today I'm married with her. That woman that he was telling me about.
Oh,
Yeah.
really?
that was quick.
I mean, it was a long process. But,
Okay.
That sounds very.
but yeah, no. The first time I saw, her, I was like, "Oh!" I didn't even dare to look at her, because it's like, "Wow,
Yeah.
that is a very beautiful woman."
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and yeah, there's a lot of things that happen in between, but yeah.
Oh, that's
So hello, very beautiful woman.
It's a pity you didn't bring her
Yeah,
with you
yeah.
today.
Come with next time, please.
Yeah.
I think the media thing is on my end. I think of course, some things, like, you don't have, some people just don't want to speak about that publicly. I can understand. There's also some things I'm not going to talk about.
That's okay.
But yeah, I think that's more on my side. Also with DW and all that work. Yeah, she leaves that to me.
Okay. Yeah. But this question I have to ask: did you bring her back with you, or did it take long before she followed you to Germany?
It was not even planned. We were okay. We said, once I'm going back to Germany, that's it. Naively, we just said that's the end of the relationship.
Okay.
And everyone was telling us, that's not going to work. And yeah, when I went back, it was very dramatic and heartbreaking, and we had some very difficult conversations. And then 1.5 months, I just booked a flight to see her.
Oh, okay.
And without that, I don't think we would be together today. But yeah, we had long stretches of time where we didn't see each other, 6 months, 10 months. But during Corona, it just so happened that she stayed longer, and then we
She
finished our
was here
papers.
during Corona. Okay. Yeah. So the first time you were in Kenya, that your year was 2017,
Hmm.
and 2020 was Corona. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
So it's a long time of just voice calls, video calls on WhatsApp. Not very easy, but I think that really showed that it works, even
Yeah.
if you're not together.
Yeah.
And it laid a really important foundation. But if it didn't happen during COVID and she went back, it would have been difficult. But it was never, we never said she should come to Germany. That was never the plan.
Okay.
Like, I would have even compromised to go to Kenya if I had found like a smaller job that pays decent.
Yeah.
I would have been like, yeah, I don't mind.
But COVID made you stay, and now you're married.
Yeah, it was like an ultimatum, because we said if it doesn't work, then this relationship is going to be very difficult. And marriage is like the only way to be able to live together. So we said, let's just do it. We can do a big wedding in Kenya
Later.
with all the traditions and the kikus coming to the fence and all that.
Yes.
we can do that
You do the ratio.
when it's right, when you're ready.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I hope you have some cows somewhere.
Also that yeah, of course, must be.
Many cows.
Yes, and I'm looking forward to seeing my relatives dance, because you can imagine that's going to be hilarious.
Oh, that would be nice.
What
Yeah.
is the thing you loved most about being in that family? What?
In my host family,
Yeah.
I think it was that togetherness and the way they accepted me as their son. That understanding of, we've never really spoken. You hear new, but we just accept you as ours. They gave me a name, Omambia.
I wanted to ask you if
yeah.
you give you a name and then I forget.
Omambia.
Yes,
Omambia.
which is the Kisi word for the boy child that was born before the sunrise.
Okay.
Because Mambia, I think, is like the morning or tomorrow or something. And it works because I was born at 4:57 or something in the morning. So
okay.
it fits. It was it was so natural for them to just be like, be one of us. And everyone accepted me, all the siblings of my host mother. I think that was like and even today we have a WhatsApp group.
Really?
Of
You
course,
still in?
Wow.
Yeah, we're still in touch. We used to talk more. Of course, after a lot of years, it's a bit difficult to keep in touch as much. It's probably also my fault not to engage as much, because they're really also very engaging. That.
Oh wow. Yeah, and then your interest in Africa, or now you're working for Deutsche Welle, you're still going on with your Swahili. Is it something you fell so much in love with that you decided this is the path I'm going to follow? Or why you going to Kenya, you said was forced onto you, not forced, but it was
a
not
coincidence. Sort of,
it was not something you chose, but the decisions later were conscious decisions. So did you continue learning Swahili, or how do you...
It was the determinator for choosing my studies. I said, whatever I do, I want to have some Swahili classes in my studies, in my university studies. And I was looking for universities in Germany under that indicator. I was looking for universities that have Swahili classes, like Mainz, Frankfurt, Bayreuth, which has a very big African department.
Yeah, Bayreuth.
Hamburg has Swahili, and of course Cologne. And Ben, my friend who was also with me in Kenya, happened to also be accepted in Cologne. So I said, let's move together. And then I ended up in Cologne, and I chose African studies and anthropology, which is cultural studies, because the cultural engagement in Kenya was very, like, the most important thing that happened to me, the language and the cultural exchange. So I combined that and I studied that.
So you were taught by Agnes?
Yes.
Hi, Agnes. We love you. That's the Kiswahili professor.
Yeah, we're still in touch. We have a Kiswahili group. Fine together. Yeah.
Nice. That was just a side story.
We'll invite you. You'll have to come.
I will.
To speak Swahili?
No. Do you do other things?
We have a bit of a Tanzanian bias.
I'm shocked here listening to you saying, I
was
speak
thinking
Swahili.
it's like food. I was thinking
He just said we have a Swahili group. And then
do you just mean to speak?
No, it's to encourage children to learn the language, like children in the diaspora.
Yeah.
We we have football events, we have different cultural events.
You
There's
see.
Saba Saba, which is like the day of Swahili. It's a more Tanzanian thing, but
Okay.
because Saba Saba in Kenya is something else.
Yeah,
Um,
that's not learning.
Yes, no. And then in Tanzania, Saba Saba is the day of, it's even in the UNESCO, I think it's the International Day of Kiswahili.
Is
Yeah,
it?
since
I
last
didn't
year,
know
yeah.
that. Yeah.
How-
Since last year?
Why don't you
Yeah.
know such things?
So this year also we had an event with
Okay.
speeches and music and fashion show and quizzes. Yeah.
You see.
And food.
Yeah,
There
yeah.
are things. There's food. There's
yeah.
fashion show.
That there I
there's
can also
music.
go.
Yeah.
There's
There will
food.
be another one next year for sure.
Ah,
Yeah,
in
Saba Saba.
Köln.
Cologne, yeah,
In
because that's
Cologne.
where we're based.
Okay, okay. And I read that you also wanted to learn
Ekegusi.
Ekegusi.
Yeah. Did you learn more, or were you really concentrating on Swahili? You know, because these are two languages.
It was more difficult to get into Kisi, of course, because there's more literature on Kiswahili. Like I had like a PDF with 200 pages that were just vocabulary and explanations, very profound and nice. So I learned with that mostly. I also have this notebook here.
I wanted to ask what that was.
Yes. So like most of the time in the project, I don't know whether you can see it, I drew these kinds of tables with
Oh
like
my
relative
God.
Mtu
quantifiers.
watu kitu. Wow,
Yeah.
you were
So
serious
this whole thing
about
is
learning.
filled with Kiswahili actually. It's mostly language.
Oh.
And then I also tried a bit with Kisi, but of course you just have to ask people and it's very difficult for them to explain it in a way that I can understand it. Someone would have to need to know German maybe to be able to explain some things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not a language like Swahili is with all these features of a language which you were told in the
I
beginning
disagree.
was
Yeah.
was
It's
not a language.
It's not a language.
Yeah.
Wow, that's I think it's also because it's very oral, and there's more written material, maybe in Kiswahili than you will find now in
Yeah.
Kisi. That's the same problem we have in Kikuyu.
Yeah. But I think Kikuyu is written more.
More, yeah.
Bit more, yeah.
Than
Thank
other,
you,
other
Ngozi Wathiongo.
languages. Yeah.
Yeah.
Ngozi Wathiongo, I don't know if there's Kisi literature, if there's somebody who knows that.
There's this woman, what's her name? She translates a lot of books from Kiswahili, from Kikuyu, even from other languages.
Yeah, I've read
Kisi?
the name, but I forgot also.
Yeah. Oh, I'm so sorry. I'm forgetting your name. I really respect this woman. She's done a lot of translation,
wow.
and I am forgetting her name. I'm sorry. This woman is doing a great job in translating really things into Kisi.
Oh wow.
Even from
that's
English
really
to
good.
Kisi. Yeah.
That's really good.
Yeah, really. Children's stories.
Yeah.
Yeah. When I remember the name, I'll come back and say it, because I would like to honor her just for doing that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because it's important. Language is really important because this is how I think I connected to you. It's more because of the
Language,
language. Because
yeah.
I've had people interviewing me here. It wasn't the first, but the issue of this language, I felt more connection to you, and that is what language does. And I wish more people would take that seriously, even people who go to Kenya or other African countries,
Yeah.
just to learn
really connect
something
with people.
about the culture and also the language. Try to talk to people in their language. And
And actually, for me, I just remember the actual reason was very pragmatic because I was teaching young children.
What were you? I wanted to ask. What were you teaching?
Of course, as a 19-year-old, what do you teach? I taught English
Okay.
and I think maths because that's like the easiest things they could just give to me. Because of course, like religious studies was more difficult. So I taught English and maths, and then sports, PE, and arts because they were not in the curriculum. So it's just do whatever. But I learned Kiswahili to be able to translate things
Okay.
because the kids were like class 6 to 8. So let's say the ages of 11 to 13, maybe 14.
14, yeah.
And they spoke almost no English, and they didn't speak a lot of Kiswahili either. Which I realized after I learned Kiswahili to be able to talk to them that they
But it
mostly
was-
speak Kisi.
Yeah. Which is nice.
And that's why I thought also I need to learn Kisi so that I can connect even more. But time was not enough and the language was too difficult. But it was a big problem in the school that in maths all the tasks were in English, but there was like 1 or 2 children in each class that were like good enough in English to be able to understand even the question, let alone the numbers and all that. So I think that also gave me another perspective of how important language, your mother tongue is in school. Because in Germany, everything is very German.
Yeah.
But it helps, I think, in schools to teach the basic things in your own language, and then you can now switch to English and maybe learn maths and English later.
Yeah.
Totally.
Yeah.
This is the kind of what we're talking about, this privilege of being able to do education in your own language. This is something we never have. But coming back to languages, because I'm just crazy about languages. I love languages. Was there a word or words that you missed when you were there and you didn't have? I'm asking this because very often in Germany, I don't have the word pole.
Yeah.
And when you tell someone, if you hurt yourself, normally I would just tell you pole.
Yeah.
There's no word like this in German.
Yeah.
So if you tell someone, you can't say Entschuldigung because people will tell you it's not your fault.
It's not your fault. Yeah, I had that a lot in the beginning. Yeah.
So how
it
do
took me a lied.
Yeah.
No, you didn't do anything. You don't have to.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So this word doesn't exist.
Yeah.
So did you have such in Kenya?
It's a very good question. But actually the word exists. It means Polish person, which
What?
is also, Pole, ein Pole. Is a male Polish, person from Poland.
Okay.
So that was difficult to explain sometimes when I would be on the phone. I'm like, Pole.
Yeah.
What are you speaking about our neighbors for?
Why are they calling me Pole? Have they forgotten I'm from Germany?
Or maybe on the train and someone thinks maybe there's some fellow citizens from Poland, because there's a lot of them here in Germany. Maybe they think you're talking about them, so it's really...
So you look Pole.
You have to be careful to use that word.
Yeah. That's true.
But a word I missed, that's probably something that on the way back I'm like, oh yeah, that's the word.
Yeah.
But just words like ach so, also, those filler words that were difficult for me to use.
Yeah. And it's true because sometimes now when I talk to my mom, I also tell her things like ach so.
Yeah. Ach so.
And no, it belongs now to my language. We say these filler words. Yeah.
When I came to Germany, I just loved doch.
Doch.
And I found that so nice and so good to say that I was saying it all the time.
Yeah.
And it was so often misplaced, you you ask something and I said, just say doch, just for the fun of saying
you
doch.
smiled and look good at it.
Yes. And it just feels good saying a word or saying doch. You're coming, or you're not eating, doch. And I actually wanted to say I'm not eating, but I'm saying doch, which is yes. It was so misplaced so often,
but it
sounded
nice.
So nice, and I wanted to be able to say this word. Just
I
felt like I'm really good in German when I can say doch.
Doch.
Yeah,
it's a difficult word to grab also in the beginning when you learn.
Yeah, because it's
counterintuitive somehow.
Yeah, it just have to come. It's a word that has to come naturally and not forced. And for me, I was really trying to force into situations everywhere. It's a word I was throwing everywhere.
And it's a very, because your kids say ndio a lot. This is not something we do a lot. We don't say ndio a lot.
Yeah.
But I noticed that your kids say ndio a lot. And I think it's because they need doch.
But they don't have it.
But they don't have doch. They're saying ndio. They say ndio. When I speak to Anna,
she's always saying
ndio at least 6 or 7 times. But we rarely say
because now the German is being translated back into Swahili.
And
it's
exactly.
now made something new.
You should hear them speaking Kiswahili.
I think I have. When I was there, your daughter she was just in and out German.
Yeah,
so it was amazing.
It's amazing. Even the Alexa speaks like that.
That's so amazing. Yeah.
That sounds like a story I would like to hear.
Yeah,
but,
it's just we just mix everything, and that was for me. It was very important to speak to them in a language that when we go to Kenya, they can speak to everybody. So I considered Kikuyu, but then I thought Kikuyu is a bit limiting because there's so many people
Kenya,
who
they can't speak
to everybody. Yeah. So I decided to do Swahili, and that was so difficult. That was so difficult for me because I've never spoken Swahili like only Swahili.
Yeah.
It's not a language I spoke all the time. Like now, I think German is the only language I've spoken for a very long time consequently. Only this one language.
Just stay monolingual.
Yeah. Because in Kenya you mix all three, Kikuyu, Swahili and English. So I was having all the time. And it was so crazy because I was really determined to speak and to speak to them in really Kiswahili Sanifu, not Cheng.
Mufti.
Yes, yes. I had an English dictionary and a kamusi. So I would check the word and then translate that. It was really complicated because sometimes it was not a very free way of speaking. It got better with time. And that was the time when my daughter was very young. No, when I was pregnant, because that's when I started. I started speaking to her in Swahili when she was still in my stomach. So when I was telling her what I'm doing now, I spoke a lot. I used to speak a lot because I knew I'm the only person she's hearing this language from. So I have to speak a lot for her to get the language. So I think she knew the language even before she came out. And then she came out and she wasn't speaking Swahili even when she was a bit older.
Why?
She was always replying she was understanding everything, which was at some point comforting for me to know she's understanding me. But then she wasn't speaking. Because I think she had me speaking German, so she saw I could understand German.
So why not use it?
Yeah. Until we went to Kenya, she was about 2.5. And I decided this is the make or break point because she's understanding the other kids, but then she's looking to me, saying something in German, and then I should translate that to the kids. And on the very sometimes I can be hard. I said, I'm not translating anything. Unge now. If you want, speak to them. If you don't want, it's okay. Just sit there alone. They can play. And then...
The way she was cute.
And she was looking and just listening, looking to me, wanting to say something, and then thinking, oh no, I think she'll not help me. She'll not help me. And then she for 2 days, she was like not speaking. She wasn't, even to me, she was now not speaking. Like the most necessary things she was saying to me when she needed to go to the toilet or something, but not conversing. And then on the 3rd day, she opened up. And you should have seen me like a crazy person the whole time with a video camera. My daughter is speaking Swahili. And she was speaking fluent, good Swahili, and she was playing with other kids. She had registered everything. She just needed that
chance to speak
for it to, and I forced it. If I had started translating, I think it would not have stopped. But then I thought, no, I'm not doing this. This is the make or break point. And after that, they speak Swahili, and it's just nice to hear somebody speak your language because everywhere is German. So when you hear somebody speak Swahili to you, and Swahili you can understand, not like Swahili from Lennart. We understand it, but it's not. It's just
simple mwananchi Swahili.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Like,
but it's really, really nice. It's really, really nice, and I'm so happy you came. And do you see? How can you relate to his experience now with the FSJ? What do you think was the biggest difference between you and him? You being here in Germany and him being in Kenya?
I think the difference was that you had your culture shock on the first day,
Mm-hmm.
because I think mine came later, way later. And also that you had to go collect money to be able to do it, and that you got to go and teach. I will never have taught in Germany.
As a 20-year-old, 90. How old were you when you came here?
Also 20.
20, you see.
Yeah, I will never
Crazy.
have been allowed anywhere
But
near a
that was
school.
madness.
So I think those are the few differences. But I did all these things, also writing all the grammar things. I used to write them on my toilet doors and read them, and yeah. And also I wasn't given a German name. I think this is a very Kenyan thing. We give people names.
Yeah.
We have nicer names than us.
But it's just a nice way of showing
It's
somebody
acceptance.
you're one of
Yeah.
us.
Yeah.
I really find that, because also my husband got the name Mwangi when he was there.
There's a power in
And,
naming things. When you name things, you own them.
Yeah.
I would have guessed like either Mwangi or Maina. Those two.
Yeah,
Maina is also,
Well, and Kimani is also
Kimani is
one.
a good
one.
Yeah.
I used to love Kimani. I always wanted to be called Mrs. Kimani one day in my life.
Okay, that's a conversation for another day. But I don't know. I just love the name Kimani.
Mrs. Kimani. Yeah. Ah,
Yeah.
yeah. This was really nice. Thank you so
is
much.
it already time?
Yeah.
Ah.
Yeah, we
Oh
we
my
can we
God.
can talk here like forever.
Yeah.
And
Also
thank
feel
you
like so.
for your time. And there's some things that we have learned today.
Totally,
Yeah.
totally.
Yeah.
But is there like one or two things you can tell someone who's going to Kenya now in your situation? What would you tell them to take with them or to consider? Just very short.
Or to not listen when they're told.
or not to listen. Yeah.
Of course, I mean, learning the language and not just the greetings being at
Just
least
not
a bit
jumbo.
profound. Even if people reply to you in English, it's still, I think, very important because people who come here must learn German. So I think it should work the other way around also. That also should be like a Kenyan thing to enforce that a bit more. And just in a short term, read Petals of Blood by Ngugi wa Thiong'o, because that book really
Yes.
explained a lot
Yes.
about Kenya's history and why things are the way they are, and how those things in that book really go down the drain. And
Yeah.
because sometimes you think this country is just there's you see some
Why are they
things
like
people on the
this?
street, why is this so shit
Yeah.
sometimes?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of reasons,
Yeah.
and also us on this side of the continent here have our parts to play in that history. So I think that would be a good thing to do.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, thank you.
Wow.
Thank you so much. Also for mentioning that book.
Yeah, it's a great book. I read
Yeah.
it twice. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's really good.
it's a great book. It's not easy read, but it's a great book.
You have to read it more than once, I think, to understand everything because there's so many names and
Yeah,
places and all that.
I read it once long ago.
You should
Yeah, I
repeat
think
it.
I
It's-
should read it
It's
again.
really good.
Now that you mentioned it, and
Maybe
I
we'll
loved
read the
it.
book and have another round table and just
Yeah,
talk about
that
it.
would be nice.
Yeah.
That would really be nice.
Yeah.
Have it in English. Of course, in Kikuyu would be cool. Because
Well,
that's the
if
language
you
that
read it
you
in
wrote it.
Kikuyu, you have to read it.
No, I think I'll read it in English. Yeah. So, Lennart, we have a tradition in this podcast where at the end we have this hot seat question.
Oh, for me too. Oh, okay.
Yes, of course. Of course. So, I'm thinking I had like 3 questions.
She's bad with hot seat questions.
Yeah, that's
I listened to a
I'm
few
just dimming you
episodes
now and So I'll do this one. You said that in the beginning you had difficulties, with missing home and all that, and you were counting the days when you'd come back to Germany, and then it came to a point where you didn't want your stay to end because you really love the country. Did you ever consider staying? Was it an option for you? And it is not a yes or no answer. We need some context.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I thought about, because you can extend for half a year, I thought about that. But I thought I really need that experience of going back and sorting all the things that I'd experienced and see how Germany is for me now with that experience. But later on, and especially now, and thinking about having children maybe at some point, it'd be nice to live in Kenya if circumstances allow. If it is only half a year, that would be nice. So they have both their grandmas and both their grandfathers. Yeah, of course. Right now I can see it. In that year, maybe not so much, because also the relationship had not developed the way it had. But yeah.
But that now with a Kenyan woman, you can, with a Kenyan, as a wife, you can imagine going back.
I feel very Kenyan. Yeah. I mean, of course, don't have citizenship and all that, and I was not born there. And there's a lot of things I don't still understand about Kenya's history and society and all that. But I would say a part of me is very Kenyan. And I would really like to, at some point, live there longer than just a year.
And I feel you somehow. I feel you. I feel this because there are people who have lived in Kenya, even, Germans, and you see them and they're German.
Yeah.
But with
It's
you,
true. Yeah.
I feel this home feeling
yeah.
around you. There's something,
Nice.
and that is that Kenyan thing you're talking
Yeah,
about.
yeah.
And I really appreciate you. and
Yeah.
for sharing also your
Thanks
experience.
for having me.
Yeah,
This was a lot of fun.
But we have
Yeah.
to eat.
Thank you
so
for coming.
I'll go make something for you, and yeah. Let me see
Ntwaro
how.
arati katoragre.
We've been seeing
Thank you, Stevie. Let me go make some food now.
I love it. See you in a bit, guys.
Yeah. See you. Lennart, I thought after you talked about ugali and how you were really liking ugali after some time, there's nothing else I would have made for you except ugali. So there's ugali, there's spinach mixed with sukuma wiki, local, and then nyama, kawaida, you know. Kenyans.
Nyama.
Bila
Nyama.
mchuzi lakini.
Bila mchuzi. And then, yeah, nimesema leo, there's no table, so we'll just take our plates and just like a family, serve yourself, take what you need.
It's nice because that's how we used to eat also my house family on the couch while you watch news.
Yeah, and wrestling.
No, wrestling was during the day. Eating was news for the adults.
Okay,
Yeah.
yeah. That's nice. That's why I did that. So, I will kata this ugali.
Yes, kata keki.
This is so crazy. It's so crazy to hear all these things you always hear at home.
Yep.
Oh, Carol, we appreciate you.
It's crazy how quick this was.
Yeah, she's amazing. If it was me, I would have been there for 1 hour. I mean the sense.
We took like a break for just a few.
I can cook fast. I think it's my job.
Yay.
What do the Germans say? Manche kannst,
Yay.
manche. Some can and those who can't teach, or whatever.
Yeah, something like that.
Can I ask you some? What are your favorite vegetables? Kenyan vegetables?
Sukuma wiki.
Sukuma wiki? Yeah, for me it's managu.
Managu is good.
Mm-hmm.
But I think I prefer terere to managu.
Yeah, I think me too.
Terere.
Terere.
Yeah.
Terere is like,
You know terere?
The slimy one.
no.
No.
That's
slimy.
Miranda.
That's
That's
Miranda.
Miranda.
Yeah, that's Miranda.
I don't know terere. I probably had it, but I
You-
Yeah,
wouldn't know.
terere is more with the Kikuyus.
Yeah,
I think.
I think,
Yeah.
yeah.
Boy, and that is chili. I don't know if you eat chili.
Firi firi.
Yes. Kafiri firi.
Firi firi?
So,
Wow.
you guys, I think I am done with chili
I just love my life because I just get to enjoy all this nice food. Just like
No,
that.
it's okay.
Anza.
Yeah.
So,
How was it?
tuombe
Did you
chakula.
have to pray before?
Yes.
Or how? Because that's a culture thing that you are not used to doing here.
I think only with my grandmother. In the beginning,
okay.
she used to try to make me do
Yeah.
that, but also we dropped that at some point. But in
Yeah.
my house family, it was a must.
Okay. Yeah. Then
And
but
before
I
going to
prayed
sleep.
for this food in the morning today. So
Okay, yeah,
we
thanks.
can start.
That should be plenty.
It is already
pray
blessed.
for the garden and for the maize in the fields?
Afterwards, before going to sleep.
Okay.
Ah,
So we prayed for maize in the field before we ate. That was really bad.
for the next harvest, so
Yeah.
that you can have something.
So
to
you
eat
open your eye like this and look at the
waiting
food.
for the food,
My
and then you
grandma
know
just-
this.
Father, anyone told you Jesus? It was going some of it. Malaria.
Yeah, those
Well.
people who used to do just very long prayers, and then you're waiting for the food, and you open one. Looking. Sometimes we used to take something and eat, but if you are caught,
My house father, God bless him, he also, my house mother too, because they were waking up at like 5 in the morning, and then we would eat often late until like 8, 9, 10. So they would be sleepy also. So sometimes during the prayer, they would fall asleep. And then there's something very nice that there's a word in Kiswahili, wobe, like the, I don't know, it's like, oh God.
okay, yeah.
So
yeah.
when she was asleep and then, wobe, and then, it was so lovely. It's a very nice, I love that word.
So do you like the
so
food?
Cool. We love it.
And what did you do to these greens?
Yeah.
There's something, I don't know what it is, but it's like,
Thank you.
I don't know what she does to food. I go home. Sometimes I watch her cooking. I go home and do exactly what she was doing. It doesn't. I don't know.
Yeah, but that's the thing. I cannot teach like you do. cannot cook
Well.
like I do. I
Well.
cannot do nice stories like Lennart does. By the way, we haven't told you. Go and watch Lennart's stories on Deutsche Welle. You hear he's on it's Deutsche Welle. You don't have a private.
No, it's on the Facebook channel mostly. If you
Yeah.
just type in Lennart Attenberger, DW,
Yeah.
you'll find
Yeah.
some videos.
Go watch his stories. He does nice stories. Lennart Attenberger, Deutsche Welle, Kiswahili. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you for staying with us. Thank you for the subscription that you will do right now, and for commenting and all that. Thank you. Bye bye. See you next time. Thank you,
Bye.
Lennart.
Thanks. See ya.
Bye.